do. I know we saw there's like a Baron Smite challenge that many of the fans are enjoying. There's also a test your strength with a Poppy Keeper's Verdict simulation where you have to swing the hammer and see how far up it can go. Riku, what's been your favorite sight that you have seen here in the venue?
Honestly, I think the activities that you mentioned, because they are focused on the rolls, and looks like we're loading right in.
Oh, wow! I did not expect us to load in that fast, but I am here for it. Warwick versus Poppy, another 1v1 archetype that I was not expecting for our showdown, but Pacheco relying on the sustain and the war of attrition that the WRLK was able to showcase just earlier today.
It was just level 1 at that as well, and the attrition just is not stopping the aggression, and the shields just keep coming.
Yeah, the Poppy is going to be really difficult to deal with for the Warwick. The extra shielding that you get, the power as well, Poppy being one of the strongest when it comes to 1v1 duels early on. You can use that ranged auto attack from your passive to proc grasp. You can do so much damage. You can see the ignite coming down. Does get traded by the barrier, but Pachicho has to go potentially back to base. It's going to stay for now. And again, you can see the range auto attacks, the grasp the stacks overall from the Poppy, just making it so difficult for this Warwick to deal with.
Exactly. The poke is just absolutely crazy. Pacheco should be careful here. I mean, in case that there is some sort of lethal things happening on the over the side of VNC, Keeper's Verdict is right there to just knock him out of the park. But so far, HP advantage is towards the VNC squad.
And I think Pacheco is recognizing the danger that he is in because he's already used that barrier early on in the laning phase. For Hua Finin, the fact that he has burned that Crucial Summoner spell, he knows that he could look for a dive, look for the burst damage, slamming him into the wall, or even his own turret, and just look for the first kill.
Oh, he missed! I mean, he can still potentially look for the dive, maybe just waiting for the ignite to come back up. There you go, there's the dive, the extra damage at the end, not going to be enough. Is going to force the Poppy to go back with the tower shots, but again, really big early advantage for this Poppy, and Warwick can't go back to base. Poppy has that opportunity to go back to base, get back to lane in time before the Warwick can push out.
And you know what, Pacheco, the sustain from this Warwick is finally showing its full strength as he's able to last hit every single minion and use the power of that Q, or the first ability, now that it's getting more points acclimated into his kit. So for Pacheco, even though early on it looked a little dicey for him, but maybe depending on what he chooses as his items going back into this laning phase for the second round, it might be a better time for him.
I think it's very interesting the Poppy is actually going for the magic resist boots, the Mercury treads, because I think he's just trying to protect himself from the burst damage of Warwick's ultimate. It can do a lot of damage early on, but you're seeing on the other side the armor boots coming on through, protecting from the auto attacks and from the extra damage there as well. So again, the factor of going for these defensive boots then being so powerful in these duels. The problem now, though, is that Poppy's wave is pushing underneath him in the tower at the moment. They're both roughly the same level and roughly the same gold as well. So even though Poppy had that early advantage, the Warwick was able to come back in terms of gold.
I love the extra sword as well in the inventory, but of course, Fofinin obviously just trying to keep poking it all out. This Pacheco already very close to lethal at half HP.
I mean, you can see the aggressive trading is favoring Poppy right now, but as we saw, Pacheco was able to get a lot of sustain. Keeper's Verdict right on target for a big knockup, goes for the wall slam, doesn't connect with the wall itself, and Pacheco is forced to use the barrier once again.
And you're seeing how difficult it is for this Warwick to sustain because he can't walk close enough to be able to sustain from the minions, from the Poppy as well, and the Poppy is able to just sit back, use the abilities. It's going to run quite low on mana overall, but the extra shielding that you get from Poppy's passive. And the thing is with, Wild Rift is that the Warwick can't actually stand on Poppy's passive. So Poppy's passive is free the entire time. There's a bit of a trade, but look, again, the shield. It's like having a free barrier as the Warwick ultimate comes on through. I'm not too sure if the sustain's going to be enough, though.
Pacheco able to get decent sustain, but it's Hua Finin still with the health bar advantage right now. Q flash! Wait a minute, Hua Finin was looking for that all-in onto Pacheco, but he's able to flash away from the second burst from that hammer shock, and Pacheco stays alive.
I love the juggling that Hua Finin is doing, multitasking, clearing the waves, sticking the waves on their side, just to make sure that the trades later on is just much more favorable for him. Now, second back, Executioners now being bought by Hua Finin. This is going to be a rough battle for Pacheco.
Yeah, going to mean the reduced healing from that Warwick, which you can tell from, it's starting to get to a point now where, as you mentioned, Rafa, a few points has gone into that first ability, and now the healing becomes more and more annoying to deal with. Interesting enough, the Warwick did not decide to go back to base, so it's actually advantage for the Poppy at the moment. Warwick needs to find the time to go back to base and spend the money, because at the moment it's a big advantage for this Poppy.
You see that Hua Pinyin finally itemizing a Executioner's Calling just to get that extra bit of Grievous Wounds applied, because you cannot always rely on waiting for the Ignite to come up. The Keeper's Verdict for the full windup. Will he let it fly? Yes, he does. And Pacheco gets booted away from his lane.
Here we go. Just having to walk back. Unfortunately, still no time to walk back to base, or else turret plates are going to fall. And that's going to be another win condition for Hua Pinyin here on this big 1v1. And now here comes the dive.
He's going for the dive into the tower. Stewart is going to be close. He goes for the root, and the barrier comes back up in the nick of time. Hua Pinyin has to back away from the turret shot, looks for the honey fruit, and the Poppy cannot continue the dive.
Again, the sustain from the Warwick, even with the Executioner calling that the Poppy has, the shielding is great, but the sustain from the Warwick is just doing so much at the moment. But I feel like, again, even though this has been a case of Warwick surviving and Poppy being the aggressor, I think slowly but surely Poppy is just going to get stronger and stronger with the likes of the Grasping Undying, and Warwick's going to struggle here as Poppy does run out of mana, so potentially going back to base, or might just pick up the honey fruit to stay in lane for longer. You can see does pick up the honey fruit, trying to stay in lane for longer. Warwick again trying to push back to try and see if he can go back to base.
Exactly, trying to scout whether or not Hua Pinyin is going to go back to time it as well. I'm pretty sure that's a big cash out for Pacheco as he goes inside the brush already and tries to go home. Not sure if this is spotted, or if Hua Pinyin is going to try to contest this. Looks like that's going to be a no. And a Sheen going to get picked up as well. Autos are going to hurt.
He's going for the Divine Sunder, Stewart. So just imagine the max percentage HP healing that you get from the Empowered Auto Attack that applies to your Q, and you're already getting healing from the first ability as well with the Jaws of the Beast. I don't even know if Hua Pinyin on this Poppy is going to have enough Grievous Wounds and reduced healing for this Warwick.
I think this game might even come down to the gold in the end. It might be the first game that it potentially comes down to gold, as the tower does go back to half HP. Okay, does knock the Warwick away. Again, just trying to push the minions underneath the tower, so Poppy has enough time to reset, has enough time to spend the gold. But as you mentioned, Rafa, with that Sheen coming on through the extra damage, but also the extra sustain potential as well, as we'll see what the Poppy is picking up, going for the Sunfire, just trying to get more tankiness and more survivability. I think Poppy realizes that he's ahead at the moment.
And you know what? The other thing that comes with the Balmy Cinder as well is just wave clear push. Poppy is recognizing that he's getting to a point where he can no longer push Pacheco out of lane, so he just needs to be able to get into the wave and just clear it as fast as possible so that you can either try and beat him in terms of gold advantage or even just apply pressure to the turret.
And that is a quite possibility. 2-5 gold just left as they reach the 5k gold mark. A lot of sustain happening here, a lot of hopes, and the trades are being won by Hua Pinyin. Satisfied with that, Pacheco is forced to wait for proc that honey fruit once more and build onto more sustain. And these long drawn fights, I think Hua Pinyin is going to be happy about this.
He just used his ultimate.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a complete waste that he used his ultimate there. He gets the dash, he gets the auto attack, but not enough damage in the end. Poppy with the passive, with the extra shielding, it's going to be okay. And again, Poppy's just going to push this underneath the tower.
We'll see if that comes to punish Pacheco here. He's able to withstand the damage for now. Pops the barrier once again to get the extra healing or the sustain off of the shield. And Pacheco is able to bring him low, but Pacheco just needs to be able to get one more first ability cast off. He has the damage reduction as Hua Pinyin recognizes that it is getting dangerously close to try and out-endure this Warwick, just doing as much damage to the turret as possible.
Is this like Saved by the Bell? Saved by the lack of mana. Hua Pinyin has nothing left in the tank at the moment, and so far that is window for Pacheco to sustain himself. The problem is it's 791 turret. Oh my god,
low.
the dive!
The tower?
Oh, the hammer shot! Pacheco flashes away from the second burst of the hammer shot proc. Using the damage reduction from that third ability, keeps him alive for now, gets the Jaws of the Beast through the minion, gets crucial sustain back into his health bar. Hua Pinyin, still a massive health bar advantage, but no mana. It might just be enough for Pacheco to survive.
Pacheco can't go back, he can't recall, but the HP is just way too low, uses the ultimate.
He roots up Hua Pinyin, gets a decent amount of damage, 50% HP on the health bar. Pacheco, despite being
He tagged it on!
insanely low, he is just so hard to push out of the laning phase. Some things never change when it comes to Warwick and laning phase prowess.
I can't believe he's down to beyond half HP now. There's going to be a little bit of a trade here and there. I don't think it's going to be the nail in the coffin just yet for this big 1v1. There is still a bit of mana, but they're slowly dwindling. Pacheco needs to run for the hills, but this cannon minion and a caster minion as well.
And the gold difference is very, very minimal here. It is still an advantage for Guapinin. Oh, Pacheco dodged the keeper's verdict there. Doesn't get punted away. That could have been his opportunity to try and push for the turret win condition as Pacheco goes aggressive. The ignite is popped, but he doesn't do enough damage.
Mana.
This is crazy. Stuart Ariku is going to be super close. Pacheco still living on a sliver of HP, but it's been this story for the past 3 minutes.
No way.
He's trying to stop the minions from attacking the tower. It's 300 HP on the tower. The ult is going to come in again. The healing is trying to be enough, but the Poppy, the tankiness, the shielding from the passive is just way too strong. And it's just an absolute fist fight at the moment between these two. The Warwick trying his best to stop the minions from crashing underneath the tower.
And it's crazy because when you are this low on HP as the Warwick, your passive kicks in and triples the amount of healing that you get on every single auto attack. So you're not nearly as mana reliant for sustain as the Poppy is, as the Poppy's trying to bring him down once again. He's so low, but he still doesn't die. It is madness.
Look at the gold though. I mean, the Poppy's only 400 gold away from winning this 1 versus 1. The Poppy just needs to do his best. There's no mana on either side. They're both just auto-attacking each other, but the passive from Poppy is just way too strong. It's just only 150 gold left for this Poppy to get. Oh, and the healing!
What the heck? Pacheco has been living below 100 HP for nearly an eternity
And there it is,
now.
1,500 gold.
Oh, but
the Poppy gets it.
Guapinin eventually wins out the 1v1 in the end. Even though he couldn't bring down Pacheco, in the end, it's the war of attrition that favors Vietnam Chosen's 1v1 participant, and they take first strike.
I was literally, there were so many points on that
Fate selection.
Yeah.
Maybe, oh, we're already back into our next 1v1, and it's Croc on Croc action with Renekton 1v1 at the forefront of the second 1v1.
So the big difference between these two Renektors is one is taking Press the Attack, Empowerment, and one is taking Conqueror. So really for the side of Vietnam, going for the more sustained damage and the longer fights, whereas Shumas wants that big burst damage early on and wants to try and take that early game aggression.
I really, really like this matchup, especially, Kuze. I do feel like, one of the more experienced players over here on VNC that had a lot of pro experience, if you will, but so far being shoved under the tower and more room for Shumas to sort of control the wave in their favor.
Both mid laners going head-to-head as well for these two teams. Shumas, I don't think you wanted that trade underneath the tower. Not a trade that you want to take early on.
You know what? It was a bold decision. And we're going to see how well it pays off for the Capybara's representative as he is forced to take a quick pick stop for the Honey Fruit. You can see that the burst damage is quite admirable, but the Conquer Keystone might lend itself to be more victorious for Vietnam. Chosen's representative already, first blood, is in victory for Kuze.
Now, unfortunately, the Empowerment not doing enough there in terms of the burst damage, just sustained from Kuzi as well. He was able auto attack, stack up his passive, get the empowered attacks as well. Whereas Shumas, unfortunately, taking that early trade underneath the tower, had to go back, get the Honey Fruit, so he wasn't able to stack up his passive on the minions. So that was the big difference in the end. And that is a big lead so far for Kuzi. You're seeing the item difference. The play it still caps to no items at all. And for Shumas, I feel like he has to pull off a miracle here.
Yeah, exactly. That armor boots buy coming from Kuzi is going to hurt a lot in this big 1v1, and once the level 5 kicks in, which already Kuzi has been able to made available, this is where the big Croc battle, we're talking about like Godzilla scenery over here in the top lane.
Godzilla, we get some Mothra action in there too.
Yeah.
Although it's just going to be Godzilla versus Godzilla.
Oh, nicely done trade here coming from Stream. Very picking the battles quite well, marinating basically, but the Conqueror is going to proc.
Conker's already fully stacked up here, and now Kuzi is going to throw down the Dominus. Shumis is waiting until the very last possible second before he pops his own ultimate, but already losing out on the health bar war there. Forced to take the recall. You can see how much the early gold advantage, the early armor boots difference is making here for Kuzi.
And you're seeing that, you know, for Shumash, you don't really want to take these long extended fights because he's going in, he's proccing the empowerment, he's trying to do the extra burst damage, but when Kuzi stacks up the Conqueror and gets that fully stacked, the extra damage and sustain comes on through as well, and as you mentioned, the gold difference as well, and for Shumash it becomes very difficult for these longer fights. You need to make sure you go in, you trade correctly, you try and dash away as well, as there's a cheeky ward to spot out Kuzi, you know, sitting underneath the, sitting in the bush there. I love it when they both just stun each other at the same time. They both just stand still.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like Renekton and mains going at each other, so of course they're going to play optimally here, but different keystones. And
again.
Here we go. There's another stun and dashing out of danger, but the difference is Ignite has been consumed by Shumas. Kuzi a little bit more patient there, and will have that available in the next trade.
Yeah, you can tell that Kuzi was being very thoughtful about how far to extend that trade. Just is patient and waits for the Ignite to run out. Now he uses his own Ignite and forces the issue onto Shumas. Forced to flash away. Kuzi still has his own flash. I think he's waiting for cooldowns. He can just flash under the tower if he needs to. Go for the final killing blow. Big stun. Call up the big. Kuzi gets it done. And Vietnam Chosen goes up 2-0 against the Wild Capybaras.
We are getting many, many different flavors of 1v1s here, and we're seeing a big mirror matchup. And of course, VNC taking their second victory here on this matchup. Fantastic.
Players and creators from all across the world as well, which is great to see. But it does look like we are getting into our AAA ramp, and I see my Bayzaya right there. That's the first thing I see.
That's the one that Stewart is hyper-fixated on.
And it's on Teals! And it's Teals as well.
Oh my goodness! Can Teals bring it home on the Feather Storm Master herself? But they are going to have to deal with a Rengar, a Katarina, a Corki, a Leona, and an Alistar. I'm already getting PTSD! Whoa! A massive knockup for the Alistar. This is going to be the story here, guys. This is 2 tanks. We've got a marksman, and we've got essentially 2 assassins. But who knows? Maybe this Rengar goes for a tankier build, tries to go for the sustain options.
Exactly, that could be a possibility as well. Just keep jumping from jumping in and then going back into the brush, just trying to proc that passive. But look at Kuzi!
Oh, Katarina!
What? Massive knockup, massive root, and stun there. Here comes the onslaught of shadows as Wild Capybaras trying to turn it all around. It's all on Emerald, trying to lead his team back to victory. Vietnam Chosen are dropping like flies one after another. The Wild Capybaras find the first big fight win against Vietnam Chosen.
Absolutely insane. Once VNC started to get that fight with Kuzi leading the charge, there was not enough damage. They were quite tanky. They're able to just root them in place, and despite them wanting to retreat, that was not an option, and WCP cleaned house.
It just felt like they went a little bit too far there, unfortunately. As you see, Rengar using the ultimate, maybe for a little bit of vision. As you mentioned, Rafa, going for a more tankier build here with Hard still as a first line.
Oh my goodness.
It's Emerald. Tries to push them back.
Trying to find the knockups once again. I see Alistar, I see Leona. Those are 2 powerful tanks in their very own right, and they are leading the charge when it comes to the CC chains. Vietnam Chosen do drop 1 in their Katarina, being piloted by Kuzi, but Wild Capybaras not giving an inch and allowing Vietnam Chosen to get any damage on their turret just yet.
Yeah, WCP, it's a very, very specific setup, relying on Emerald's Onslaught of Shadows, and having to get that Hemoplate from Shumas to really amp up that damage. And though ideally that would be the case, but if VNC keeps doing this and catching them one by one, they may not get that ideal 5v5 setup that they want to take.
Yeah, it looks like someone on Wild Capybaras as well also has the Lissandra augment from Jensen from the World Collaborations. Format knockup!
It's so many knockups coming through from Vietnam Chosen's tank line, and the back line has nowhere else to go. Wild Capybaras are trying to rely on the innate durability, and yet, here we go, Stuart. The fact that they're able to survive through the turret dive, Vietnam Chosen are losing members one after another. Somehow, some way, it looked so good for Vietnam Chosen, but it's the Capybaras that stand tall, and they're doing massive damage. They should be able to take out the first turret right here on this push.
And you can see Emerald going in there, just making sure that he can look for that reset, spend that gold that he was just accumulating, and that's so important to make sure that this Hecarim can get so much gold over time. The Rengar trying to jump in. It is a little bit tanky though, does use a flash to get away as well. And you're seeing it's very, very difficult sometimes when they attack the Rengar, the Lissandra passive comes on through to just slow the Rengar down. So far so good for the Capybaras. The gold is very even at the moment, but with Emerald being able to go back to base, pick up that Black Cleaver, that's going to be able to get even more damage as well. But I think it really comes down to these tanks in this matchup. You know, the Alistar and Leona. Rafa, you had to deal with it once before.
He's getting flashbacks right now, that's why. And honestly, when you mentioned the tanks, right? Leona, Alistar, this Rengar as well. I'm going to get 3 heart steals back. They're going in, though.
Big fling from the Singe, and the Hecarim is trying to wreak havoc once again as Emerald has been able to lead the charge.
Katarina ulti
with a massive Katarina ultimate, but the tankiness and the durability from Wild Capybaras is reigning supreme here on the Howling Abyss. The flash in from the Vladimir, trying to secure as many kills as possible. Vietnam Chosen just do not have enough firepower in the tank. They have tanks for themselves, but no one can cut down the likes of the Hecarim, the likes of the Swain, the Vladimir, all bringing them down to their knees. It's an ace for Wild Capybaras.
Oh, everybody's pretty much alive, and look at these Kuzi trying to clean up.
No, he can't kill him!
But instead is going to fall, and no trades whatsoever, and I feel like that is going to be the reset the WCP is looking for, as they've gotten a lot of kills under their belt already.
Yeah, they have a lot of gold as well. You've seen Tills just trying to do as much damage to that tower as possible, but really important that they're able to go back to base now and spend all their gold. Emerald and Tills just hitting over 10,000 gold. The same with the Vladimir as well. There's so much gold on all of these carries. It looks like there might be a pick here. The Singed is pretty tanky. We've seen the Vietnam are just trying to go for tower dive after tower dive, but it hasn't worked before, and it doesn't look like it's going to work again.
They have a lot of CC given credit over to themselves, but they don't really have enough burst to get through every single member of the Wild Capybaras. But they are able to catch them one by one. Maybe, just maybe, it'll give them a momentum advantage that they need. So far, one member has been dropped on either team. Massive Featherstorm, massive break back, but the tomb, the frozen tomb augment.
He's alive!
Barely goes down! Vietnam Chosen being pushed back to the brink once again. It's the Bruisers from the Wild Capybara roster that is pushing forward. Shumas finds himself alone between 2 tanks, but Shumas gets the master sustain, flashing forward for the Tides of Blood. Eventually, he can bring down the Titans in these Vietnam Chosen tanks. The Alistar bites the dust, waits for the Katarina to arrive, tries to set up the CC chain, and Kuzi brings an end to the Vladimir's reign.
What a fight there. The Vladimir Shumas took a while for them to get shut down, but eventually he falls, and that is going to be a necessary anti-healing item for sure against WCP, as the sustain is just incredible on their end.
It's absolutely chaotic at the moment in this AAA RAM. The Katarina being able to get so much done though for the Vietnam roster, going for the Black Cleaver as well, so it's going to be just getting damage after damage after damage down. But down to these tanks again. Rengar using the ultimate, bit defensively again, just trying to get a little bit of vision to see if he can find someone off guard, but looking at some of the items as well. Swain going for the full tank build again with the Heartsteel, with the Unending Despair, one of the AAA RAM exclusive items that are on Wild Rift at the moment.
I think either Kuzi or Ho Chi Minh is going to have to spec into some max percentage HP damage shred, whether they... I mean, I don't know how optimal it is to build a Blade of the Ruin King on Corki, or maybe a Leandries for the Katarina, but look at how much HP that Wild Capybaras are stacking for themselves. Their only really squishy damage dealer is Teals on the Xayah,
they're going in,
but they have ways to be able to dodge the damage out. The Solar Flare sets up the fight, but now the Alistar is in the middle of multiple members. He's not taking any more damage, he's finding multiple knockouts, but can Vietnam Chosen actually push through? Here's the turn, the onslaught of shadows goes into the backline. Ho Chi Minh is pushed back, gets the fling back with the Singe, and here comes the Capybara's train. There's no stopping them as they push through the second turret of the base. Vietnam Chosen are getting dropped one after another. The Rengar doing everything he can to hold the line, but the minion wave is closing in. Wild Capybara's trying to find the finish here.
Amarok, what an onslaught to set up that fight, and could have been maybe maybe. I thought it was going to be the game-winning team fight, but no, reset still. They're going back to base. They're going to get much, much more stronger, and that gets even more scarier for VNC.
Yeah, Teal's decided in the end to be the one person to not go for the reset and make sure that he can try and defend this tower. Has enough wave clear as well with desire to try and defend this tower just to make sure that the Vietnam Chosen can't get enough gold under their belt. But again, it's that backline access from the heck. Goes down. And it's still anyone's game rifle at this point because both of these teams have the crowd control. They have the scaling damage as well from the likes of the Katarina to try and come out on top.
Vietnam Chosen just needs to be really careful on what next fight they choose, because if it is a poor fight, then it could just be Wild Capybaras bringing it all the way to evening up the series. You can see how much damage that D2F is trying to sustain through using the power of the Battle Roar of the Rengar, but eventually is about to be brought down, gets run over by the Hecarim as Emrock finds the shutdown for Wild Capybaras. Singe gets taken out by the Corki, but the rest of Vietnam Chosen are on the retreat. They cannot bring down the sustain. They cannot bring down the bruisers in Wild Capybaras. And this is the momentum shift that they needed. They wanted to find the resurgence. They wanted to find the revitalization. It's all on the Corki to try and defend, but it's no use. Wild Capybaras and tie up the series.
Oh my gosh, you see the excitement, the symbol!
And against a Mordekaiser. So
interesting.
That's the creative cooking that the Brazilian team was able to put together, recognizing, you know what? Rumble might be an option that they go for, but with the Mordekaiser, the Death Realm access to the level 5, what if you wait out for the Equalizer to be thrown down, and then you answer back with the Death Realm so you avoid the Equalizer itself?
Exactly that, and I think it's going to be really important to see if Emrock is able to get that isolated damage early on and that extra sustain through for the Mordekaiser. Of course, both of these champions can have a little bit of sustain. The Rumble does have the shielding. Emrock with the healing as well, with the second ability, but you can see early on D2C being able to push out the Mordekaiser, and I think it might take a little bit of time for this Mordekaiser to come online, but you can see like the extra shielding and the damage that comes through from the Rumble. That's why I feel like this was like really one of the top picks in this 1v1.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that D2C on this Rumble is such an amazing level 1 champion in itself, and now Emrock being forced under tower, forced to get Honey Fruit. And the biggest difference is D2C, they're confident coming in with teleport. So we're moving back to the first matchup that we had today, where it's all about that back timing, being able to get that item advantage as well coming into the fight, especially once level 5 comes with a Death Realm on the board.
The exciting thing is as well, these are both of the junglers for the roster as well. So 2 junglers going head to head in a 1v1 is really interesting to see how they actually play the laning phase, because sometimes playing the laning phase as a jungler isn't the easiest thing because you're too busy, you know, going around, being able to farm minions in the jungle and get everything else. But this is a different type of gameplay here for both these players, and try to play the laning phase as good as they can.
Flame Spitter already maximized here by D2C, pushing Emrock back. Is able to clip him with the Claw. Level 5 not available yet for the ultimate. Decent damage from Emrock, but he's forced to flash away. D2C is not going to follow up, and that's going to force the Mordekaiser to recall early.
Flash advantage now for D2C in the next fight. Once level 5 comes, this is the big equalizer that we're talking about. And of course, with teleport in play, maybe D2C can consider going back and then ready for that big fight.
Thinking maybe he can even use his ultimate to try and push the next wave after that as well. Could even use that as an advantage, but instead going back and going for the teleport. And I think D2C is going for the build that I was saying that a few people I've been seeing in solo queue right now have been cooking up, and it's the tank Rumble build. So you just go for Grasp of the Undying, and you just go full tank. And because the second ability has such low cooldown and your base stats are still so high with the extra damage, you just build tankiness, you can still do so much damage, and you have incredible shielding as well with the second ability.
It goes back to the conversation we said about Rumble not requiring a resource bar. It is pretty much infinite as long as he's able to manage that heat very intelligently. And the fact that you can cast Scrap Shield so many times, I can see the theory crafting behind a full tank Rumble build. Equalizer already used, as you called it out, to push the wave. Emrock still has access to that Death Realm, but will not pop it anytime soon.
Yeah, I gotta wait for that perfect timing, because so far the trades has been in favor of D2C. waves as well, and so far it is a 200 gold lead on the side of the VNC squad. So again, remember, this is the big 1v1 tiebreaker, and so far, a little bit of overheat. D2C is going to be happy about the game state at the moment.
Yeah, definitely going to be very, very happy. He's just going to be able to overheat and just, you can see that Emerald cannot do any damage at all to this Rumble. He's trying his best to do enough damage. Emerald trying to deal damage, and he can't do any damage because, like I said, the shield cooldown is so low. And because of the overheat, because of the pushing power of this Rumble, kind of reminds me of the 1v1 that we saw before Refa with the Irelia. It's going to be using the Death Realm though. Flash.
Trying to flash away from that big mace smash, but D2C trying to live through it all. The Ignite coming up with the Scrap Shield gives him a little bit of reprieve, able to walk out safely before Emrock looks for the finishing blow. Equalizer comes out, will push the wave successfully and allow D2C to be able to get a safe recall window here.
Imagine if Emrock had flash at that fight. I felt like that would have been first blood already in favor of Emrock, but patience is a virtue, and we're going to have another reset coming in.
The only thing I can think of right now for Rumble is he going to build just more magic resist? No, he's just going to go for the Bambi Cinder again, try and go for more pushing power with the Rumble. We saw this as well before with the Poppy being so powerful with just pushing the pushing Emerald. This time will be underneath the tower. 500 gold difference at the moment. Obviously doesn't seem too big in general, but in a 1 versus 1 can mean a big difference, because if Rumble can just keep pushing this wave and keep tanking up the damage from Emerald, it could be enough.
I'm curious what Emerald is going to try and push for in terms of his first item. Obviously, it comes down to whether Emerald will have the time or the window to find it, but with that early Hex Tech Alternator, there's a variety of options that he could go for, but I imagine since D2C has not bought any Grievous Wounds, doesn't have Ignite, can you go for a Riftmaker, try to double down on the sustain advantage there, maybe?
I think it can be a little bit difficult. I think the problem with that is you're waiting for so much gold, and at that point you might be too far behind, and it might be the same scenario as last time where, hey, the Warwick could have bought the Divine Sunder and it could have helped out, but when you're getting pushed on the tower time and time again, you're seeing at the moment Emerald is just doing 0 damage at the moment towards the Rumble, and at the end of it, it's just going to come down to just more abilities just going flying time and time again with the Rumble, and there's nothing really could do. Equalize again, just push the wave.
Exactly.
This is what's going to happen every single time.
That means the ball is going to be in Emerald's court to try and make something happen as the gold lead keeps climbing right up. Emerald now down to having
struggling.
It's so close. I mean, Emerald has a decent shield bar that he could pop just for more sustain in his belt. But D2C, the full tank Rumble build is proving to be very hard to deal with, as D2C, between the Scrap Shield, the Grass of the Undying procs, and the Wave Clear from Flame Spitter and the Bomby Cinder. Emrock is trying his damnedest to match up against it, but he's just falling slowly behind the curve here.
Actually baited out the recall in the end from Emrock. I wonder if Emrock is going to know he doesn't cancel his recall, so it's going to be a bit of an advantage here for the Rumble, because the Mordekaiser is going to take a little bit of time to go back, so he might lose a few minions. You can see the recall coming through as well, but that means that Rumble again has more of an advantage. It's nearly a 1,000 gold lead now for this Rumble. It's going to pick up a few extra minions, but he's just falling further and further behind, and he wasn't able to finish that Riftmaker. And on the other side, that's a Sunfire.
Yep. That first spike advantage could be what gives D2C the winning advantage in this 1v1, and it would allow Vietnam Chosen to take the overall series victory. We're going to see if maybe Emrock found a window to recall here. He was pushed back by the Equalizer, stopped the recall window here. D2C not going to be able to find the Electro Harpoon, but Emrock is going to stop the recall. If he can just find a moment to get that Riftmaker to match up against the first spike item advantage, it is the closest thing that the Wild Capybaras have to being able to win the series.
I mean, we saw earlier, right, the very first death round being initiated, it was actually D2C running for the hills, trying to be safe and sound, but if that item is able to be, you know, completed and has time, maybe D2C doesn't have any Equalizer to reach this, will allow Emrock to recall, actually, but take note, we're down to 6,000 gold now for D2C. Remember, 7,500 is the win condition that D2C can also achieve.
Can he take the tower? I was thinking he might have been able to do a lot of damage to the tower,
That's
but instead
true.
decides to back off in the end. Of course, with tower platings going down now, it means that you don't get the extra gold from taking the towers, but D2C in the end, and this is the advantage that D2C has, is that he doesn't need to go back to base. He already had the first item power spike, and only just now Emrock is looking for it as well. Again, using that equalizer to push the wave, and it becomes very difficult for Emrock because he has to deal with Rumble's damage, but also the minion damage as well, and I'm not too sure if Riftmaker is going to be enough.
Emerald, let's see if that Riftmaker spike is going to allow him to start winning these trades to win an all-in 1v1, but Emerald does not pop the Death Realm. D2C barely takes any damage and still going to feel comfortable enough to find a recall window, immediately TP's back, recognizing, and now he has a Spectre's Cowl.
I think this might be pretty over now. I think it's just going to be the goal difference in the end. You can see Emerald going back to base, but again, is the equalizer? No, the equalizer is not up just yet, but D2C can just push underneath the tower. You can see Mordekaiser actually using the portal. We've gone this late into a 1v1. He uses a portal from the base to actually get back to lane quicker, but with only 500 gold left, you can see Emerald, he wants to fight. He knows he needs to fight now because the Rumble only needs 500 golds.
Emerald is trying to get some decent damage down on the D2C, but he is just shrugging it off.
Too tanky.
No big deal whatsoever for Vietnam Chosen's representative in our final 1v1 of this series. He backs off. He gives a brief over to Emerald.
That might be enough gold, honestly.
We're going to find out. Emerald is going to try to fight to the death before the 7,500 gold mark is achieved by D2C. He's trying to do everything that he can to force damage, but he is barely taking any scratches here on this Rumble.
Trying to zone him out of the minion wave as much as he can, prolong this 1v1 fight because it's slowly climbing. There's passive gold, 100 left, and D2C can take this all.
D2C is just going to rush on forward. He flashes away, being respectful of Emerald's damage here.
That's going to be it. One more minion.
One more minion
there
here.
It is.
There it is. Vietnam Chosen is victorious in their final series against Wild Capybaras.
And you're seeing the power of the tank Rumble build, which I was teasing a little bit earlier with some of the builds that have been cooking up with Rumble recently when you talk about